Hello, everyone. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. Happy Wednesday. Just going to let everyone get in, get you connected to audio and get settled. Welcome to this week's Workshop Wednesday. Super excited to have our guest speaker for this week. So thanks for coming back. Workshop Wednesday. As a reminder, we're here every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific time, rain or shine, share detailed, interactive, and hands-on workshops. We always bring along a SaaS expert to get the opportunity to interact and directly connect with the speaker themselves, get your questions answered, and also connect with other fellow community members. This week, we're going to hear from Fred Linfjard. He's the Director of Growth Marketing at Planday. So make sure you get your questions ready. He's going to be discussing 5 lessons learned evolving from sales-led to product-led go-to-market strategy. We aim to keep these as interactive as possible, so we do encourage you to turn your video on, to come off mute when it comes time for the discussion and interaction so you can get your questions answered, but also so we can make this a little bit more of a community feel from behind our screens. All right, Fred, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, and happy to be here. So great to see so many people talking about or listening to this topic, which is quite, in my opinion, and quite important topic, especially since, as you all know, it's very sort of hot right now with we have to go product led, and we need to have less human touch, but there's actually some real implications to that. Also, what can happen if you kind of try to do it wrong or fast, that I'm gonna try to go over here. And but yeah, so to introduce myself, I go by Fred. I'm an advisor on growth related topics for a company called Fastspring and some others, and I work at my day job as the director of growth at Planday, which is a B2B SaaS company, and I'm going to kind of take some of the learnings I've seen from there and other companies, especially when you come from a sales and marketing led business. That's how you've grown, and now you're starting to see things, and you want to try to get into go more product led. So let me
Amazing.
continue.
Fred, before you kick it off, I'm going to interrupt you and we're going to ask you some questions just to get to know you a little bit better and to kick off the conversation. So Danny already started us off, but we'd love to hear where everyone is tuning in from. The great thing about these workshops is we really do get people that are joining from all over the world. So Fred did a similar session for us in Barcelona last June at SaaStr Europa, and it was really, really popular. So we wanted to bring it to our global community. So we've got Phoenix, Boston, San Diego. I'm over here in San Francisco, snowy Denver. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. Another San Diego, very cool. India, South Africa, Bangalore, Montreal, Dublin, Turkey, Vancouver, London.
Wow.
And it keeps going. So yeah, amazing.
Wow.
Thanks everyone. All right, Fred, are you ready? Really quickly, how would you define what you do in your current role?
Yeah, I've been trying to explain that to my kids.
Exactly.
Well, basically, my role is usually looking at for everything from acquisition to retention to monetization. So the big picture and how we can scale and grow based on the the opportunities and goals that lies ahead, and creating sort of a like a culture of more experimentation rather than looking at the historical data and trying to come up with forecasts on how to get to the point. It's actually more about the experimentation and those kind of things. So I work cross-functionally across a lot of departments, and I have focus areas depending on what objectives the companies have. And then you go in and you go deep and you really try to move a metric that has a big impact on the bottom line.
Amazing. What project are you working on today that you're most excited about?
Today what I'm working on is a lot about taking a product that has been born from sales and marketing and trying to make it much easier and self-serve, which is a little bit about the topic at hand here. Yeah.
We'll be hearing about that shortly. Okay, one more question and then I'll let you get to it. Well, I guess I have two questions. Someone wants to know where you're located. Copenhagen?
So I'm in Sweden now. I'm a Swede, but I work for Planday, which is based in Copenhagen, and south of Sweden is just across the bridge, and there's Denmark in Copenhagen. So Sweden and Denmark, one can say.
Split. Yeah, you're split. Okay, last question. What's your favorite SaaS product?
Jesus. Okay.
Loaded
I would say now it's actually a mix between Notion and actually attribution platform and yeah, this was hard. You kind of took me there. I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, well, we'll go with Notion for now. All right, enough questions for you. Let's let you pass it over to take it away on your content. Thanks so much for joining us, Brett.
All right, cool. So let's go ahead with the 5 lessons learned and see if we can get some discussions going afterwards. So basically, you think you hear in the organization from the C-levels, etc., you want to go PLG, and you have a company that's been scaled, with people and where you call people and you explain the product, right? And you might have outbound sales, you have some inbound motions, you book demos, etc. You're noticing that CAC or cost per acquisition is becoming higher, and it's also increasing. So it's not really looking scalable. Do you have a drive to sort of decrease the human touches and maybe even exploring if we can reach smaller accounts? So basically, here is where some companies go really hard and they use, let's do it and blah, blah. But there's actually, what I say is like, you got to take it a little bit easy and take a step back, because there is an underestimate what it actually means by implementing, product-led growth and what it takes. And if you rush it too fast, you can risk some destructive consequences, for instance, in the organization. So what you got to do is kind of look in the mirror and kind of see, okay, how much can we do with this product? Like how much can a person that are landing in this product understand it without any person talking to them? And how fast can that go? And is it even possible? And then you need to kind of form this some sort of cross-functional plan, right? Or you can end up as the new bomb picture that I'm showing here, and a lot of bad things can happen. Because you have people that are being paid, usually salespeople with commission, and you might tell them that don't call these people anymore because they're going to have to learn themselves. And there's all sorts of things that can happen that is counterproductive. So basically, when you the lesson 1 here is kind of implementing product-led growth tactics. It's very healthy, even if you're an enterprise company, just implementing the tactics and trying it out. But you shouldn't stop doing what works today. And what I mean by that is, we still have to pay the bills, right? You know what you have, and you know how much money that brings in. Yeah, you might know that it's not scaling, but it's paying the bills. So becoming less reliant on human touch, it takes time planning, and you don't really want to mess with that. So you want to continue optimizing what you have. Try to plug as much holes in the leaking bucket, because you're gonna have to pay for this new initiative anyways. So you don't want to introduce a ton of changes super fast, especially not when it comes to the product and your operations and even marketing and channels, etc. But you really want to do is implement these processes, mapping up what kind of human touches do we have, kind of learn from them, set up these feedback loops where you're actually trying to figure out, okay, well, what can I replace? How can I reduce number of calls made, or length on the telephone calls to do a demo, etc. So you need to evaluate what can be moved to self-serve. Lesson number 2 is that you have to realize that you're not going to be doing any product-led growth anytime soon. And going full PLG probably never going to happen with the product, depending on what product you have. When you look at PLG companies, those that are true PLG, they are born that way, right? They are born with the product first, and then they are scaling it with maybe adding an AE motion or something like that. So you kind of just have to realize that, because if you realize that, yeah, we're not going to go fully PLG, then you kind of can open yourself up to how do we kind of take what we have now and make it more efficient, effective, and adding these tactics to it. So, as I said before, it basically wasn't built to sell itself, your product. So you want to kind of go towards this product-led sales, which is the word used days. Before I called it more sales product assisted. And it's basically, if you're sales-led, you know, it's the acquisition and it's primarily led by the sales teams. But if you're fully product-led, you have the features and the usage in the product. That's what kind of sells the product. So you want to look for the middle there, where it's kind of driven by customer expectations. You want to figure out how they can try your product earlier, and then you kind of want to look at, okay, well, so how can we get to this point without negatively affecting, you know, our current operations and goals? When do we get there? So as an example, when can we expect, you know, X percentage of trial signups to convert with, you know, 1 to 2 human touches or less, or maybe you have 4 touches. How can we get to 2 touches, etc.? And then you need to look at, okay, well, what needs to be true for this to happen? You know, do I have the right skill set? Do I have the right people? Do I have the right organization? Maybe I have, and many times you have the right people, and competences, but you might not just have the right organization, so they don't get used in that way. And then also look at, is there changes I need to do in the product, systems, integrations, etc. Number 3 is, and I think this is important, and this goes back to really change management, because this is kind of really what it is, and it is to have a dedicated team to drive change in parallel of the existing sales-led motion that you already have, right? So basically, you don't want to take the people you have that are working in your motion and tell them to also do product-led growth immediately, right? Because that's going to inadvertently take focus away on the optimizations and the stuff they're doing on your inbound and etc. And then that's not going to work as good. So you kind of want to look at the new team to drive this change in parallel. Now, I am a big advocate that the growth team is super suited to drive this change, right? And a growth team never wants to be stuck inside a marketing department or maybe a product department. Given the fact that right now I am stuck in the marketing department, without we can leave that like that. You want to have some sort of understanding top to bottom that they are here to drive this change. They're going to experiment across marketing, across a product, across sales, right? And so they are suited to report to the CEO or maybe similar, so they can have that autonomy to drive that change. And they want to work in parallel with the existing org, just to see how they can exchange these human touches with maybe self-serve stuff. And they also, if you don't have to really, we start sort of this ideation and experimentation a culture where they kind of pull in insights and ideas from all these different departments, and they start to experiment around that. And they might just also figure out, you know, if we need new resources, they can help hire those, and they can even see if we can retrain existing people, or maybe they spot people inside the organization that they can kind of move to this new team maybe. And basically, if you look at it here, the classic sales and marketing led organization, you have sort of sales, marketing, success, engineering, product on one line there, but on the product led, it's kind of very much driven on product. And I believe it's going to be some sort of in the middle where you're working a lot with the product to sort of understand when you need to reach out by a salesperson. So instead of calling them before they've seen the product or talked with the product, you want to drive your inbound as normal, and you want to push that into a trial, and then you want to figure out when they reach the trial, when should I reach out to them? So you're looking on the account level, how are people in an account using our product, and how can I figure out to reach out in the right time, etc. Number 4 is understand and plan sort of beyond your product market fit, which is impacted of changes that you do within your product, model, channel, and market. So what I mean by that is you have a product market fit now, but that is not only based on your product, it's based on your whole motion, right? So if you would, for instance, take your product and add a trial to it, add a freemium, you're going to change these things around, and it's basically kind of these moving points, which this guy Brian Belfort explained really good. That you have these product fit, you have a product channel fit, you have a channel model fit, and all these things. So when I change something in the product, things might happen in the channel, right? Or if I change something with my model, I might need to change the channel. So just understanding that one of these fits affects the others. And number 5, the last, is sort of don't try to go super broad. You have to start small and then expand the scope and experiment, learn, and implement. And what I mean by that, and going into growth and experimentation here, is that you don't want to experiment on too wide segments or verticals, because characteristics can often differ a lot on these micro segment levels, right? So, and if you're experimenting too wide, you know that it can give you false positives and negatives. You might not get your stat sig or statistical significance, and it's not really what you want to make decisions on. And a good example of that is, all right, so I'm a company and I'm going to divide up segments, and we put 0 to 50 as a small, because we sell to 50 to 250. 250 to 500, 500 to 1,000. We might have all these, so we call 0 to 50 small. But the fact is actually that it's a big difference between someone that's 0 to 5 and 40 to 50 employee company, right? And it's also different if it's the hospitality industry or maybe it's the retail industry. So what I mean by this is don't go that wide. You kind of want to look at, okay, well, let's say we spot that, okay, we're going to start with 1 to 9 employees in a sector, and we're going to start experimenting and see if we can reduce that. Maybe it's an opportunity just by making that self-serve, because we have seen in the data, etc., that we're spending so much time on just that segment in that industry and that size, right? So by dialing down in there, you can and experimenting on that level, you can actually see that. And it's also when you look at the data, if you look at the data in this way, you will spot these patterns, because once you have 0 to 50, it's averaging it out, right? So you won't spot these things where it might make a difference. So the top takeaways, basically to sum up, is that you want to assess your sort of maturity level across your organization and the product. So how far can I go? And is there tons of changes that needs to happen in product for it to even be possible? And then form a plan, right? And then you need, I think you have to understand that, we're still paying the bills with this. We still have people that are being paid with getting commissions, etc. They're not gonna, you don't want them to just stop calling customers. And don't aim to be fully product led, directly or ever. Try to try it out and see where it lands, because it can really be destructive, in my opinion. and you need a high level speed and experimentation to do this. So you need a dedicated team that has mandate and autonomy to be able to do this, that are not being stuck in a silo somewhere. So I think actually this is it, and I'm sorry if I rushed it through. It's a really interesting topic, and yeah, I would love to hear questions or discussions on what you guys are experiencing and thinking.
That's perfect. Thanks, Fred. Great time for discussion. I think this is a great glimpse into it. Of course, you can really, really go deep and spend a lot of time here. So appreciate the breaking it down for us. And I think it's great to kick off the discussions. If you want to go ahead and unshare your screen so that way we can all see each other a little bit better and easier. I'm going to start by going through some of the chat questions. We also have, we're live streaming this on our YouTube and our Twitter and LinkedIn. So we've got some folks watching from there that I've got some questions coming in through as well. But like I said, we want to make this interactive. So if you're comfortable coming off mute to ask the questions live, we'd love that. First question up is from Mike Latch. I don't know if you're comfortable coming off mute so you can share your question.
I'm perfectly comfortable coming off mute.
Perfect. Go for it, Mike.
Oh, my question above. You actually answered it, Fred, when you were talking, which was you were talking about, you had the picture of the atomic explosion, and you were talking about destructive consequences. And I was just curious if you had some examples. I'm like, you just mean like morale killers, where, the whole sales team is like, son of a gun, we're all gonna be out of a job, or anyway, just like examples of things was the question.
Yeah, I just that thing that you're gonna stop thinking that you have to experiment in a way that you just tell people to stop calling people without kind of considering that these are humans, that they are actually are their salaries are based on making calls and certain aspects, and it's super destructive and low morale if you just say from one week to another, hey, by the way, don't call anyone up until this point on this size anymore, and without actually thinking about the consequences. Then what you should do instead is figuring out a way that you can pay them differently, maybe, or have some sort of different commission scheme before you tell them to stop call, as an example.
Gotcha. I had another question. Do you want me to get back in the queue, man?
No,
or
go for it.
Go ahead and ask it now. I didn't get a chance to write it. I was writing it. Do you have any? So, in some of my experiences at tech companies, some small and large, I've come to the conclusion that I really like serving and selling to larger enterprise, just because the kind of, if you're like a team player, you like getting in there, rolling your sleeves and really helping people, it's very expensive to do that. And doing that for a small company, like you go out of business. Do you have any like ideas, thoughts, anything like after saying that, does anything pop in your head about product-led growth stuff in terms of enterprise clients? Like anything you remember happening, lessons learned, anything pop into your head?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a really interesting, so I've been buying SaaS for like 13 years. So I've been in so many different sales processes, both being an enterprise, customer and being part of it. And I think that we shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit when we say, oh, you have to do this when you do enterprise, or you have to do this when it's small. In fact, that, if I am in an enterprise and I'm in a buying process, I want to have a free trial, and so being able to offer that, I think, is offering a free trial, even if it's an enterprise, instead of saying, the classic, hey, no, you can't have a free trial. Oh, we actually don't do free trials. You kind of, why not give out a free trial, even for enterprise, or you might be a part of your product that you can showcase, maybe even on the website, or maybe in some sort of environment sandbox you see people are using to allow these people to try it out, because in enterprise there's a huge buying committee, right? You're gonna have maybe a techie geeky person like me that like I cannot trust anyone's word. I have to go in and poke around and touch things to even consider this. So that's why I think that these product-led growth goes great with enterprise. If you look at the buying committee, right, and can apply it to them, you can actually speed up that process instead of having the classic qualification call, and then you're going to set up a product demo, and it's going to go through this very long process. So I don't know if that answers.
It does.
The
Basically, I was
question.
just kind of curious what would pop into your head. You might have said something like, yeah, cutting edge PLG stuff is 17 times in, automatically shows the screen to their lawyer, and then the CIO can pop in on this screen, like true PLG, no humans landing $1 million contract. I've never heard of such a thing. Someday it might be like
No.
that. I was just curious if you. Anyway, you answered my question. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to continue to talk outside this on that topic.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, Fred.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Okay. David Kopek, are you comfortable coming off mute? You dropped a couple questions into the chat, which would be great ones to ask. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and ask his question then. Fred, in a recent podcast interview, you discussed how many companies are reactionary to churn, but you stated that you see it as a lever for growth. In this podcast, you define voluntary, deliberate cancellation and involuntary churn like a credit card expiring. Do you have any recent examples of strategies that are automated through qualitative feedback surveys pre-voluntary churn?
Okay, well, cool. Thank you for catching that one. Churn is a hot topic too. So repeat the last part there. So do you have any examples of?
Any examples of strategies that are automated through qualitative feedback surveys pre-voluntary churn? Yeah,
definitely. Setting up the feedback loop is kind of the most important part, and I'm happy to share outside this how to do this, especially when you cancel your subscription, to have that continuously feed into sort of maybe an automation system or something where you can actually trigger actions based on that data. So let's say I cancel my subscription, you get the classic transactional email saying, thank you, and I'll put the survey in there where I ask, why and how, why did you cancel, and then I ask what do I have to do to get you back, and I'll take that together with all the information about you, send that into the automation platform, and I trigger, hyper personalized workflows based on, okay, you said it was too expensive. Okay, maybe I'll send you an offer or something. Or maybe you said we were missing a feature. Okay, I'll take that and send to the product team. And then when that feature comes, that email will go out to you. So setting up these automated feedback loops is kind of most of the important things I do to kind of start working with these things, kind of building an engine around this qualitative feedback. That makes sense.
Okay, awesome. Any ideas for workflows to give technical support or initiate an immediate response to the data obtained?
Could you repeat that one? I didn't, or clarify it maybe. So workflows for helping technical support to understand sort of the information about the issue that the person are having. Is that what we're talking about?
This is off that last question. So I think it's more about the qualitative feedback surveys.
Yeah, I mean, it's I would base especially if we're going to churn, or if you see that people are struggling in the product and you can spot that behavior, which you can, then you can trigger a customer support person to a customer success person to reach out, for instance. Or maybe if you want to minimize customer support time by using PLG tactics, one of the good things would be to provide the support people with the information about the struggles in the product. Let's say an example. So you can see in the product, for instance, let's say you're using Intercom, and they have these little tooltips in there. Like, you can spot if people maybe try to look at certain help articles too much and click on the tooltips and are missing things. So you can kind of send that to the customer support agent, or even, being more proactive to actually start sending out content first to reduce things. So you can do a lot of these different things. I mean, just by giving them information about why they want to talk with you, that then you don't have to ask these questions. I mean, if you put that out on a year, then you're going to save a ton of time. So it's all these incremental things to make it more efficient, and it also makes it easier for the user. They don't have to explain everything. You already know it, kind of.
Yeah. All right, just looking through the chat, Nikhil, when you were talking about setting up the growth team, sort of like pricing used to be in marketing product, nowadays has their own team. Thinking about it, pricing can be a growth lever, so pricing can be part of the growth team. John, I see you're nodding your head, and you're next up to have a question. You comfortable coming off mute so you can ask?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is fantastic. Thank you. One of the things, Fred, you mentioned was to make sure that we give room for the PLG team to act autonomously. And just curious what you've seen work in terms of kind of providing that air cover. Do they report up through the same CRO, or do they report up through a different line, to provide them the room that they need to be successful?
That's a good question. Thank you so much. Yeah. So what I've seen is, when you try to drive that change from within one department, it's usually not very efficient because it's the same as I advise, don't put your data and analytics team inside under the CRO or something. It should kind of be within. So I think you should have it under the CEO or something in the middle. And then, of course, you're trying to just talk about, or that growth person would actually come in and automatically start talking with people and trying to and explain, like, this is how we're going to drive change, and it's going to be more about the process. So we don't know yet how this is going to work. So that means that you as a product department can't start build yet, right? Because you don't know. So what the growth team would do is we would create an environment where we can work maybe on top of the product and try, onboarding stuff and stuff like that much faster. And then I would try to explain the value of the product teams by being able to get the insights from these experiments to prioritize the roadmap and become more efficient. And I think it works better if that entity is like in the middle. They're just like on top, working with every team based on you have your sort of high level OKRs that is always going to be top on that, but you might have a theme that, okay, we're going to dive into this here, and I go into the sales department and trying to work with them, or we go into the product department. Maybe you have someone in charge of monetization and try to run experiments on that, because everyone has their day-to-day job, no matter what. It takes a lot of effort to, now I'm going to have to run experimentation on top of all these other things that are paying the bills today, if that makes sense. So yeah, under the CEO or some sort of change management function, depending on how your organization looks, it's ideal, I would say. Maybe you have a chief growth officer, and that would be but I don't think that. I think the growth role is what I've seen. The growth role is not very, very understandable if an organization not as mature on that. They might not gonna have maybe a growth person that works across product and sales and marketing, the way you can see, like Facebook and stuff like that. Well, they have like these, acquisition growth teams that are only running that, and they, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does. I just had it, and thank you. That's helpful. Just a follow-up question was, based on your experience, did you learn that certain cohorts of the customers, as we broke them out, you had a great example of don't try to boil the ocean, right? Work on a specific segment or vertical. Did you find that there were, certain cohorts that had a better response rate than others? Thank you so much for letting me ask my questions.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I when I dived into the data and looking at it, on the small segment, I could see that 0 to 9 gave let's say 200 euro ARR. But if I just went from 10 to 20 or 30, that tripled, and the sales cycle length, the time to value from first touch was even shorter. So that tells me that, hey, this 0 to 9 is not giving us anything, and so what pops into my head then, like, what, maybe we should can give away our product for free to these people, build up a lead engine. Maybe that could work, and maybe we can just steer in and find out how does these 10 to 20, 30 people trigger, how many people are they there, how many touch points is needed, and I look at first touch to opportunity 1, right? And where are we losing deals, where are we winning deals, and when it's just a big segment, it's when you're generalizing just 0 to maybe 50, you simply don't see it. You become blind unless you kind of look deeper. That makes sense. Awesome, man. Thank you.
So similar question in the chat here, just off that. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, but when you choose a small cohort of the target market to experiment, what are the key metrics to be kept in terms of pricing as the new team wants to decrease the price of the CAC? Oh my gosh, this is a wordy one. You might have to read it yourself, Fred.
No, I think
okay.
I see it. I think I get it, actually. So I see it here on the side. Yeah. Let me. So this one is really good, right? Because one thing that is hard is, like, let's say you have if you're a sales and marketing led company, you're gonna know that salespeople has discounting, right, as a lever to close the deal. Okay, so if you and it's kind of baked into the model. So, like, if you try to, for instance, put in the classic, this is how much you pay per month, and this is how much you make if you pay yearly, you're gonna have users that have seen that come in, and then there's a salesperson that's like, they just think that we're going to give them 20% on a 400 user license or something like that. So pricing becomes, you want to differentiate. If you try the product led, where you want to be like on much smaller customers, you want to really differentiate that, and it comes down to the model, right? So what's your model? How are you doing do you have usage-based billing? So, okay, after 5 users, then it costs this much. After 10 users, is this much. But then after maybe 50, then you have to contact sales, right? So you're gonna have to figure out that you have a clear differentiation line between where the sales and marketing motion starts, and the sort of the self-serve new stuff that you really have no idea how it's going to work is going to work. So that has to be differentiated in your like on your pricing page, right? I think that's super important. So pricing and packaging is super important, and also features. You can't just go and throw both of them in the mix and then think it's going to work in a efficient way. This is a good question. The pricing is super important there. Actually, so thank you for that one.
Amazing. Anyone else have any other questions they want to ask live? takeaway, have something different in the PLG pricing packaging to not interfere with the SLG. Love that. Thanks,
Yeah.
John.
For sure.
All right. Last call for questions. I think that was a great one to end on. Actually, one more. Do you really get to statistical significance?
Do you want me to? Do we have time for me to ask that question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Fred, like, I have a very technical background. If you're like a scientist, you get to run real experiments and really understand what like statistical significance means, and that, in my experience, that doesn't happen very often. And like if you're Google, you really do have a lot of data, right? You really can get a million people that just see a red button. Everybody else sees do you really get that? Do you really get the opportunity to say, look, I've proved that this doesn't correlate, this causes this, now let's do this? Does that, do you really get that, or are you still really getting information, you have make judgment calls and then make your business case, and make changes? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I come from sort of a conversion rate optimization, and I kind of use that term because I thought that it would make sense. But it's absolutely what you're saying. It's kind of, first of all, when you do testing, let's say on a website and whatnot, you have to kind of you don't test maybe web visitors and mobile visitors together in the same test, because you can get all these different things. So that's kind of what I meant with that. But in the end, if you're in an A/B test, right, kind of sense, then statistical significance kind of is the way to call it. But I would say in this case, when you're running growth experiments, it's a different type of testing, and it's more about probability and confidence level and level of risk that you can trust this. So I would say that it's more towards more type of qualitative testing. I mean, it depends what you can what you feel comfortable. I mean, to me, I want to collect all these different parameters, and it will increase my sort of confidence level that this is the right thing to do. And it can I think when you're trying these different things, it's you might not run it as an A/B test, but it could be that you're running it as an A/B test on the pricing page, where I'm looking at people that are on the pricing page to kind of click on the free trial button because of something. Then I want to just only show my variation to those that are small. And the way I would do this, I would probably figure out how to output an enrichment tool, right, to see every company that I pick up that are in this vertical or control group. I'm only testing that towards in the same type of setting, one size maybe higher, and see if it changes. If that makes sense. But it's absolutely right. In B2B, you don't have the amount of volume as I did when I used to work e-commerce. So you're not as as you said, you don't have the opportunity as much to look really directly on statistical significance in that means, if that makes sense. Awesome. Yeah.
Thanks, Fred. Yeah, no, yes, I understand. You answered my question.
I feel like this could be a whole nother session.
Yeah,
John, I know you dropped that in the chat. So maybe for a future workshop Wednesday, we'll have to add it to the agenda. So thank you, Fred, for sharing your insights and just for a great interactive discussion. And thanks everyone for joining us for this workshop Wednesday. Next week, we are actually headed to Singapore for SaaStr's first APAC event. So it's our inaugural APAC event. We're super excited to be there. We will be live streaming, so be sure to check it out and watch out for the content to come in the coming weeks. But our workshop Wednesday will be back in 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks' time, we are excited. We're going to have venture capital firm Iconic Growth. Doug and his colleague Christine are going to be talking through some tactics for building resilience and efficiencies in scaling in 2023. So don't miss out. We will see everyone in 2 weeks. And thanks again for joining.
And thank you so much. Please add me on LinkedIn. I would love to continue to discuss these topics outside. And thank you so much, Disaster, and for hosting me, and everyone for asking questions. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. Bye, everyone.